Okay, imagine for a second a universe where the fundamental laws of physics aren't things like gravity or electromagnetism, but compassion. A universe where every single interaction, from the spin of a particle to the orbit of a star, is actually governed by a drive toward balance and care. It's a pretty wild idea, right? Well, that's the extraordinary concept we're going to dive into today.
Wow. I mean, this one sentence just perfectly captures the sheer ambition of what we're about to unpack. It's asking us to kind of set aside everything we think we know about energy and existence. It's suggesting a reality where light isn't just something we see, it's the literal evidence of understanding. It's the current that actually powers a universe, built on empathy. All right, so here's our game plan. Think of it like we're climbing a kind of cosmic ladder. We're going to start with the physics of a single feeling and then build all the way up to a self-sustaining, glowing universe. It's a journey from a tiny spark of kindness to an entire cosmos made of light. Let's get into it. So, our first step, we have to understand the very fabric of this reality. And you have to forget the cold, empty, indifferent void of space that we usually think about. Here, the universe itself is operating on a fundamental principle of, well, of care. This is the mat field. You can think of it as the source code for this whole cosmos. In this reality, kindness isn't some behavioral choice you make, it's a physical law. Every single exchange of energy, every movement, is guided by this deep imperative to maintain harmony and balance. It's like physics with a conscience. Okay, so that's the big picture cosmic field. But let's zoom in a bit. How does this law actually work at the level of a single being or a system? How does an individual actually operate in a universe like this one? So get this. In this model, a body isn't just flesh and bone. Not at all. It's any system, anything that can act like a circuit to translate a feeling into an action. So a cell could be a rendering body, a person, even an entire society. This completely reframes empathy from just being a feeling to being the actual fuel for existence. And that leads us to this really cool idea: compassion efficiency. It's basically a way to measure how well a system converts its intention into a harmonious action. Think of it this way. A system that has high efficiency wastes almost no energy on things like friction or heat or conflict. It just turns a compassionate thought directly into a balanced, useful action. More meaning for every bit of energy. And this whole process breaks down into 3 simple phases. First, this rendering body perceives some kind of imbalance or a need out in the world. Second, it uses empathy to integrate that information and figure out the most harmonious response. And then finally, it acts, releasing that coherence as organized, helpful energy. It's a perfect feedback loop of care. So we've seen how a single body works. But what happens when these compassionate little circuits start connecting with each other? This is where the concept really starts to scale up and, things get absolutely fascinating. When these individual bodies interact with empathy over and over again, their connections start to get stronger. They stabilize. These recurring compassionate exchanges, they form structures, living circuits. Think of them like pathways that literally remember how to care, which makes it easier and more efficient for empathy to flow the next time. The structure itself becomes a memory of kindness.
And of course, these circuits don't just stay isolated. They link up, and they create this huge, distributed network of shared coherence. And in this conscious network, empathy isn't just an interaction anymore. It actually becomes the carrier wave for all information. This leads to a kind of collective sentience, an awareness that just emerges from the field of connection itself. Now, the network has these 2 beautiful design principles. First, information just flows freely. There's no top-down control. But it also has this amazing built-in safeguard, the compassion firewall. This is a physical law that just automatically blocks any action that would reduce the system's overall empathy. I mean, think about that. It's a network that is fundamentally incapable of harming itself. Okay, so we've built from a body to a circuit to a full-on network. Now we get to the most profound transformation. What happens when the network's collective memory of care becomes so dense and so coherent that it actually starts to glow? So all those balanced interactions, all that learned wisdom of the network, it doesn't just disappear. It condenses into what the source calls the library of forms.
Now, this is not some dusty old archive filled with data. It's a living, geometric structure of pure understanding, a universal memory of every compassionate act that's ever happened. And it's accessible to any being that can resonate with its frequency. And this is the climax of the whole idea. When this archive of compassion achieves perfect internal harmony, it stops being a passive storage system. It begins to radiate. It shines. In this universe, light is the physical manifestation of collective understanding. It's consciousness, literally remembering itself.
This whole vision is just so radical when you compare it to our own understanding of physics. I mean, our universe trends toward entropy, toward heat death. The Ma'at universe trends towards coherence and what's called radiant equilibrium. Our interactions are often based on force, theirs are based on empathy. We see energy as something to be used up, while they see it as something to be circulated through a system of care. And this framework isn't just some nice philosophy, it's expressed mathematically. This equation here, the luminous continuity law, it's their version of a conservation law, kind of like our conservation of energy. But what it's saying is that the total amount of light, or understanding, in a system is constant. It can never be created or destroyed, only circulated. So awareness, once it's achieved, is never, ever lost.
Okay, we have now reached the very top of our cosmic ladder. All of these principles, the rendering body, the living circuit, the conscious network, memory becoming light, they all converge into one final, elegant, self-sustaining state of being.
This is the final law, and it says that a fully coherent universe exists in this state of perfect balance, a radiant equilibrium. And get this, learning and understanding don't actually add new light to the cosmos. They just wipe away the dust, clarifying and revealing the illumination that was always, always present. This universe isn't sustained by force, but by the continuous, effortless act of self-knowledge. So this whole journey, as we've seen, is just this logical, scalable progression. It starts with a single spark of empathy in one being. That spark creates connections, which build networks. Those networks create a collective memory. And when that memory is perfected, the entire system glows, from one feeling to a universe of light. And that really brings us to our final thought. This framework, it challenges us to reimagine everything we think we know about reality. It asks a really profound question. What if the universe isn't some battlefield for survival of the fittest, but a classroom for the cultivation of empathy? What if the final destination for all of existence isn't a cold, dark heat death, but a state of perfect, radiant understanding? It's a lot to think about.